Hey, good morning. Welcome to the Stokastic.com NFL Strategy Show, Sims Edition, Friday, heading into week 3. The season always goes way too fast. Always good. You know what else went way too fast? This gigantic breakfast burrito I just made. And boy, do I feel heavy after that. You come in hot at 10 o'clock, eat a 2-pound breakfast burrito with some beef, some rice, some eggs, maybe a little spinach mixed in, some onions and some hot sauce. Oh, and a little cheddar cheese. You're in for a long day, but you know what? I can handle it. And so can, well, I don't know if Greg Ehrenberg, actually, I know Greg Ehrenberg can because he told me I needed to add hash browns to it as if that wasn't enough. Good morning, sir. What's up, man?
First off, it was tater tots, which is
right.
really it's the same thing, but maybe slightly less greasy. Really, most potatoes are kind of the same thing. They're just formatted in different ways. Like tater tots are not all that different from French fries. They're not all that different from hash browns, but they're shaped different.
It's the funny thing about potatoes and eggs is based on how you prepare them, they taste entirely different. Like a mashed potato, delicious, but tastes nothing like like a baked potato. Tastes nothing like any of these other. Same with eggs. You ever think about that? You ever really get in deep into your thoughts and consider that a scrambled egg and a fried egg are the same thing, except they taste entirely different? Bet you hadn't.
No, I always make my eggs the exact same way, scrambled, because so I guess I have thought about it because I make my eggs the exact same way every single time, scrambled, because it tastes the same to me and it's the easiest to do. So why would I not just do it that way every time?
Well, frying an egg is the easiest to do. You literally just crack it in the pan.
Scrambling them is pretty easy too. You're right though.
Frying is. Here's what I have to know. Do you scramble them before or after they're in the pan?
I just kind of crack the egg, I put it in, and then just mix it around as it cooks.
I'm a pre-scramble in the bowl guy, and I add a little bit of milk. Anyway, everyone was very curious about that, so I just wanted to get it out of the way first. Good morning. Glad to have you guys here. Hopefully you had a good Thursday. Let's head into the weekend with a fun show on Friday. I'm looking forward to it because this is one of those slates where on Tuesday I told Ben, like, where I was really honing in on. Well, we've got some updates, and I'm not surprised. Like, those spots have become much chalkier actually even than I initially suspected. So I'm going to make some pivots. I want to make some pivots. They're not showing up a ton in the Sims right now, but a few spots I may add some manual boost to and see what we can get away with. But hey, if you guys don't mind, before we dive into this, tone for your sins, or should I say, Greg, tone your sons.
Absolutely. Tone those sons up. Tone them up.
I really did not know what that dude meant yesterday. And then he goes, because this guy in Live Before Live was like, tone for your sons is so annoying. And I was like, I don't know what that means. And then chat let me on, told me what it meant. He meant a tone for your sins. And then he goes, sorry, I started drinking early and I'm tilting over something. So Kyle Pitts being injured. He's like, I atone for my sins. So good people. Anyway, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. And guys, leave a comment down below. What stacks? Let us know throughout the show too that we might not be getting to that you are, or that we are getting to that you're not in the Sims. I think there's a lot of interesting ways to play this slate. I look forward to diving into it and having you guys here. One more thing. If you guys ever wanted to, maybe you don't have YouTube Premium, right? Maybe you want to listen with your phone off in your pocket. All of these go to the podcast as well, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere. You can find them there right after they're live here. So, yeah, make sure to do that as well. Ryan Schindler, how much longer is Mike McDaniel around? I don't know, dude. I thought Mike McDaniel, I don't think he did I don't really think he did much wrong yesterday. If you want to nitpick, fine. But, he had them in position to tie the game. They played it right. And then Tua threw a terrible interception. Like, he tried to look off the defender, and he did a poor job of that, and it got picked off. I mean, what are you supposed to do? Mike McDaniel can't throw the football. They went up against a good defense in Buffalo as 12.5, 11.5 point dogs. And, yeah, they lost by 10, but that game could have been tied based on one single solitary play. So, look, I've been the one that shit on Mike McDaniels for years now, but I'm not going to come in and crucify him after a game like that.
I've never seen a game that was more competitive where I was more sure of the outcome. Like, there was never a point in time in that game where, like, oh,
No.
the Dolphins are going to win. But, like, somehow the game was tied or pretty close all the way through. And then I don't know if you saw what Tyreek Hill said after the game, but he seemed to pretty strongly be backing McDaniel after the game as well. So it was a very weird quote. So did you see it? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
All right, let me find the Tyreek
Yeah,
Hill
exactly, Steven. You can't blame McDaniel for roughing the kicker either. You could make these silly comments about like, well, if the locker room had more respect, this wouldn't. No, that's utter nonsense.
Here's what Tyreek Hill said after the game. My piss was hot. The way he coached and the way he led men today was a beautiful thing.
There you go. So, I mean, probably around a little bit longer. That's a vote of confidence. Say what you want. And Tyreek Hill doesn't really mince words either. So coming from him, at least you know he's not full of shit.
Yeah, and then I mean also the Dolphins owner said before the game that he's doesn't have intention of firing McDaniel. I mean, he did say if people stop showing up to games, then he'll have to reconsider. But he made it seem like as of now, that is not something that he's considering doing, is firing McDaniel. Now, things could always change. If the team loses 3 more games in a row, then maybe he feels differently. But they were in a very competitive game with arguably the best team in football on the road in a primetime game on a short week.
Yeah, Chris, I don't understand that his piss. What is his piss was? Where when I came up, your piss being hot meant you were about to or you have already failed a drug test. That's what my piss is hot means, right? So I don't know what that means, but I know what it means in my vernacular.
Yeah, it means chlamydia to me. Yeah, so it's all.
That could be another one. Yeah, that's also
which
true.
Also that could also be something Tyreek Hill's dealing with. This might have been 2 separate things. He might have just said he was pissing hot yesterday, and then he also said, just as an aside, that he thought McDaniel did a good job yesterday. Could have been 2 separate statements.
Yeah, just total non sequiturs. All right, let's get into it. I'm excited to dive into this one, man. And I want to take you straight into something before we look at our lineups, before we look at like top down exposures. I want to see how much of this one stack we have. Okay. Because I already posted a bet for this over on Tails. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be gross. And a lot of people won't like it. But as the great Baron Rothschild said, the time to buy is when there's blood in the streets, eh? It's a ladder play, and it is on a receiver who has struggled. If you're not on Tails yet, yo, we had so much fun over there yesterday. We just added like tons of new users over there with all of the content, the free content that's going up there, all of the DFS lineup builds that are going up there, all of the free bets, all of the great contributors and experts popping up and posting their bets, some super sharp people. If you guys aren't there yet, it is free. And I don't mean free like put your credit card in, you get charged Friday or next Friday. I mean, it's free. Like you literally just create a free account, come over there, hang out, follow me, follow Greg. See the link down there? Follow Loughy on Tails, follow Greg on Tails. You can follow Ben, Eric, follow Josh, and all of the other people that are outside of our, individual community that are on there posting bets. Come check it out. I got a couple props up for this week that I love. Does it mean they're going to win? No, but I love them. I love them. We got some good line movement on them already too. So that means at least it's not terribly bad, but we're going with parlays. We're going with some ladders, maybe some round robins. Greg's throwing DFS content up there, doing his bankroll challenge. If you're not there, again, it's totally free. And it literally takes a second to sign up because you can just sign up like through Apple or Google. You don't even have to create new credentials. So I'm talking 1 minute of your day. Come over, follow us, turn on notifications, and we can sweat these bets and get this DFS content together when we're not on YouTube.
Also, I did a giveaway yesterday that we talked about on the show. So what I did yesterday was I posted just free. It was totally free. Anybody could have got it from Tails. Just go to tails.bet or download the app. I posted the top 5 sim ROI lineups for FanDuel and DraftKings. And what I said is anybody who liked that post over on Tails was going to be entered into a drawing to win a free sim subscription. And we have a winner of that. So I'm announcing that right now because I got this from one of our devs. So here's the winner of the giveaway. This is Joshua Gold. If you are listening right now, or if you're just listening later, we have your email address here as well. Email support NewsGod. He is going to answer that email, and he'll give you a free week of Core Sims access. So shout out to Josh for winning. And yeah, if you guys are not already on Tails, go ahead and do it. Like Loughy said, it's totally free. You could follow any of us individually. You could see all the bets we post. And yeah, if you're not taking advantage of it, there's nothing. It's free. You got nothing to lose.
Yeah, look, here's the deal. We're on our way to building an awesome platform and community over there. And you guys are the best community that we have. And you've been with us for a very long time. So, you know, all of you coming over there would be awesome. Mr. Mike, what's up, guys? Yeah, FYI, to all, the Tails app keeps getting better and better. Yeah, man, we're in true building phase. These devs are doing like 12-hour days right now, and I'm not kidding. So, all right, let's go. I want to talk about AJ Brown, and I want to talk about Jalen Hurts. And I just kind of want to give you the way I could see this game playing out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Witherspoon's out for the Rams, which I think is actually a pretty big deal because Emmanuel Forbes, who is an undersized corner. I think I was mentioning this to you we hang out after Live Before Lock sometimes for like 2 hours and just shoot the shit. We were talking about like this Emmanuel Forbes, former first-round pick in Washington. He's been better, but man, this guy is undersized, 180 going up against like an AJ Brown type. I'm not convinced AJ Brown stays down forever. You guys make your own decisions on, you know, from this show. But the single stack there to me appeals to me for two reasons. Barkley had 500 yards from scrimmage in 2 games against the Rams, 4 touchdowns last year. They may also be without Braden Fisk, which would be a big loss, the Rams on the D-line. Don't you think they come in and try to stifle this run game with Saquon Barkley? Like, I'm not saying they devote all of the resources there, but it feels like this could be an opportunity for the Eagles to say, you know what, we can still move the football. And I look at week 1. They moved the ball at will against Dallas until – what was it, like an hour and a half weather delay? And then both teams came back and the offenses just weren't right. That happens, you know? Same thing happened in Jacksonville, Carolina in week 1. So I look at all of this, I see shootout potential because Matthew Stafford and these guys were the only team that pushed them a little bit and a lot bit in the playoffs. Now you have Devontae Adams. I just think this game could go like in shootout fashion. And if it does, is A.J. Brown really going to only have 20 yards per game forever? So I like the single stacks with like an Adams or a Nakua run back. I'm kind of excited about getting to some of that low-owned spot.
Yeah, so I did sort here by stack exposures just because I knew what your bet was. I knew which direction you were going in. So I did try to filter by Jalen Hurts stacks. The problem is none of them showed up because it is currently not a stack that is showing up in the Sims here. So I am curious to see.
I still want some of him.
Yeah. We've only got one of our top 150 lineups that have AJ Brown at the moment, but I'm on the same page as you. I think that he is a reasonable guy to do an ROI boost to, because I know we haven't projected for some ownership right now.
I don't think he's going to be that high owned, Greg, personally.
Neither do I, because it's based on data, right? Our data is saying at $6,300, AJ Brown is reasonably priced, but it's assuming the field is going to play him at 11% because of what the price tag is and what his projection is. But then I agree with you. I think that because of the bias against how he played the first couple of weeks, I don't think the field is going to get there. I don't think he comes in 10% owned. I think he'll be like 5% or something.
I think you're right. And you know what? I'm not convinced Jalen Hurts is going to be all that popular either. So I like the skinnies there. I genuinely do. And let me ask you this. If we update projections and we update this, which we will, I mean, it'll be today actually, but let's say his ownership drops down to like 4 or 5%. Are you telling me you'd have no interest in AJ Brown at like 4 or 5% in a game that could potentially shoot out?
Yeah, we definitely. I'm also curious because this has been the same Eagles team for a minute now, right? So we could look at the historical pricing for AJ Brown, and get a pretty good sense for what the fair price is for him. Like, there's no reason to think his production this year should be wildly different from last year.
Right.
But there weren't major changes to the skill position players on the Eagles offense. It's the same core wide receivers. It's still Saquon Barkley at running back. It is
almost the same exact offensive line as well.
Yeah. So let's see. What was, it's not up here anymore. But yeah, I'm going off memory. AJ Brown was regularly priced in the mid 7K range last year. So you're getting a really big discount on him just due to some recency bias. And something else to consider here, even though I personally think Jalen Hurts has played pretty well this year, he just hasn't had to do a lot. When Jalen Hurts has to do a lot, he's capable of doing pretty much anything. But he's only thrown for 253 yards this year. He's been really efficient. He's run really well as well. He's got 77 rushing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. But what opportunity is there for A.J. Brown to have massive receiving games when the Eagles as a team to this point have only thrown for 253 yards? So in a scenario where they either are in, which in this spot is a very favorable matchup for them, or in a spot where they just have to throw the ball a little bit more, the numbers are going to be more robust. We may have already seen the 2 lowest passing yardage games of the entire year for Jalen Hurts.
Yep. Also, green checkmark says Hurts has been trash. He actually hasn't. In week 1, he was 19 of 23 passing. Mm-hmm. He only threw for 152 yards. So obviously you're not looking for 6.5 yards per attempt. They didn't need to. He also rushed for 62 yards and 2 touchdowns. He has massive upside there. Last week against Kansas City, he wasn't great. However, 15 for 22, 101 yards. You're not looking for that at all, Greg. Kansas City's defense is very good. Like, we talk about their offense and how they've regressed, and Rashee Rice is suspended and Xavier Worthy was out with the shoulder. Do people forget that this is still a very good defense? They have arguably the best cornerback in the league, and also one of the best one of the best pass rushers in all of football as well. Like, their defense is still really good.
Yeah, and I mean, even if you go back to week 1 against the Chargers, where people were, like raving about how good it was that Justin Herbert looked, because it was an outrageously good game for him, it was still a spot where the Chiefs defense on the whole looked pretty decent. So, like, sure, they gave up 27 points, but I didn't come away from that being like, oh, the Chiefs defense is terrible or anything like that. I do think that the Chiefs, by the end of the season, we're going to look at them and be like, oh, that's a top 5 or so defense in the league.
Yep. They are. There's no doubt about it. Like, I don't know. I just think it's funny that, you're talking about Trent McDuffie, who is maybe the best cornerback in the league, against lining up a lot against A.J. Brown, seeing a lot of A.J. Brown. And then it's like, you look at these Rams corners. So I don't want to spend the whole show on it. I'm just saying, I think there might be some contrarian spots this week. The reason I wanted to start the show with that's kind of just a microcosm of this entire slate. And here's what I mean. I love this Dallas and Chicago game, but it's at a point where there's simply no way this game is not absurdly chalky. I'll bet Dak comes in higher than that 8.7, right? Caleb's at 14%, which for a quarterback is a lot. Look at some of the exposure to these wide receivers in this game. So yes, it's not that I don't want to get to this game, but I do think if I'm stacking Dak, I may go with like George Pickens and Ferguson without CeeDee Lamb in spots. Caleb Williams. The problem with stacking Caleb Williams, how many Caleb Williams stacks are going to have Rome and DJ Moore?
Probably a pretty good amount if you look at our now updated ownership and also exposures. If you guys saw when I was sorting by the quarterbacks there, we had over 20% of Caleb Williams and over 20% of Dak Prescott. Nearly half of our lineups had one of the quarterbacks from this game. And if you look at the pass catchers here, we've right now got DJ Moore showing up in 35% of lineups, Adunzi showing up in 28% of lineups. So, yeah, the pass catchers are going to be pretty popular. They're also well represented in our lineups here. So, yeah, this is definitely a spot that the field is going to be getting to and our data is getting to as well. So yeah, this is the chalk game of the entire slate, and it makes sense. People just saw the Cowboys and the Giants score 1 million fantasy points, and Russell Wilson was one of the quarterbacks in the game. So I know there are very mixed opinions on Caleb Williams, but I think the consensus is going to be that in September of 2025, Caleb Williams is a more talented quarterback than Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Talented, maybe. Capable, I don't know. But still, it's not a good defense for Dallas. It's really not. I will say this much though. How about last week? Yeah, Ben Johnson going back to Detroit. Do you know who the Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator is?
I do not know.
Matt Eberflus.
So another former Bear there.
Yeah, who was unceremoniously, shown the door last year after this abomination of play calling and clock management in that Thanksgiving Day game. So, maybe he's got a little bit of maybe he's got a little pride on the line here. They always say they don't care, but I don't believe that. They always say we're not thinking about that. Yeah, you are. Bullshit. Of course you are. You're certainly thinking about it. So now it's a great game. I want to get pieces of it. I'm going to stack it. I'm about to record the perfect lineup video right after this, and it features both sides of this game, as I think it should, Greg. But if you're here's what I'm saying. If you're just going in and like your standard build is Caleb plus Rome plus Moore plus CeeDee Lamb and then like plus Jordan Mason and Jackson Smith and Jigba, I'm not saying you're going to be fully duped, but that's just going to be like I think that will be that right there. I'm going to give you 4 players. Or no, hold on. Caleb, Odunze, Moore, Lamb, and Mason. I think that 5 players, that build will be more popular than anything else on this entire slate.
Yeah, we usually don't have very many dupes that show up for main slates. I'm kind of curious. All right, here we go. Yeah, there are a handful of lineups here that we're expecting to be duped a pretty good amount of times by the field. The number 1 dupe lineup here: Caleb Williams, Christian McCaffrey, Jordan Mason. All right, all follow so far. JSN makes sense. Garrett Wilson in there, DJ Moore, Tyler Warren, Rome, and the Steelers defense. That's a lot of the players.
So no CeeDee Lamb, but still pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have to be. They have to be popular. Clayton, that perfect lineup video is fun. Thank you, man. Josh and I, we did it for baseball. I don't know if you do. We did it for baseball for months, and we loved doing it. It's a lot of fun for us, too. So I appreciate you guys supporting it. Plus, we give away a free month of NFL Max every single week. I got a fun one for you that you're going to have to guess this week, and it does not relate to fantasy points. So that'll be up around 2 o'clock if you guys want to check it out right here on the channel. It's only 10, 15 minutes long. So super simple, bite-sized VOD content that I think you'll like. But no, going back to this, just throw it to you. How do we get different with the Dallas and the Chicago builds? I think that's important.
Sure. Yeah, I was also going to tell people that we're doing which I think Clayton probably knew this, but the perfect lineup video that Loughy and Josh have been doing for main slates, doing it for the showdown slates as well. So yeah, check out all those videos that they're doing. So yeah, looking at the Chicago and Dallas stacks, I don't think there's a reasonable way to make it different with the players from that game. They're all going to be pretty popular. What I do think you could do, though, is you could play some other players on the slate, like an A.J. Brown, that are going to be pretty contrarian. All it takes is 1 or 2, 3, 4, 5% on guys in a lineup, and it doesn't really matter if the rest of it is really popular. You have a differentiation point that's going to be pretty unique. So let's say, for instance, that you're on the right side of A.J. Brown here, Loughy. He ends up being like 4% owned. He catches, 8 passes for 120 yards and a touchdown. If you have him in a lineup with that Dallas Bears game stack and that game goes off, and A.J. Brown just happens to be the stand you took as the highest scoring player on the slate or one of the top value wide receivers, then you're kind of, it's like its own individual bet on A.J.
You're right. You're right. Yeah. So you don't need to get super weird. You just You don't have you're really not looking to go with all of the super chalk on top of that game. But I do think with Dak, and I'm not saying this will be super unique, but if you go Pickens and Ferguson without CeeDee Lamb, that could absolutely be in play. Or even just like a Dak skinny with George Pickens. I think that's possible too. But yeah.
Yeah, we do have I think Pickens is probably the most reasonable way to make a differentiation within the game. Ferguson is still, we have projected as the third most popular tight end on the slate. So I think he's going to be present in a lot of those lineups. But I do hear on George Pickens, we were talking about this on Wednesday as well. George Pickens, he's a little bit overpriced in my opinion, $5,900, but he's only projected for 4% ownership. Don't look too much at George Pickens' just yardage numbers for the year, because one thing that we looked up on Wednesday, he has drawn 78 yards of pass interference penalties this year, which is something like 50% more than the second most receiving your DPI penalties that somebody has drawn at the wide receiver position. So there's a scenario here where those penalties don't occur, and George Pickens has 78 more receiving yards this year. And then his results look quite a bit different. His ownership is probably different for the slate as well. I do wish he was a little bit cheaper than $5,900 because there are a lot of wide receivers I prefer around that price range. But for the purpose of a game stack, he clearly has upside.
Definitely. Right. Yeah. I mean, he has he's drawn 3 DPIs, 2, and I think all 3 of them are on deep attempts, Greg, which means if those weren't negated by pass interference, you're talking him leading the team with 7 deep targets. So yeah, there's something there for sure. Kyle, appreciate you, man. Appreciate you holding it down for us. 270 watching and only 60 likes. Hit that like. Yeah, hit that thumbs up. A tone, my friends. Megamind Genius play this week is Geno plus Bowers and Myers. Chris, I don't even hate that, honestly. I don't think that's the most insane thing ever. Geno, no one's going to want to play. Similarly, the same way that nobody wanted to play Russell Wilson against Dallas, no one's going to want to play Geno either. Now, the one big difference there is that Washington's defense is better than Dallas's. But at the same time, I don't think Brock Bowers was 100% last game. Even so.
No, not even close.
No, he wasn't. If he's back and he's okay, you do have a good double stack in Bowers and Myers. The only part I disagree with there, Chris, is maybe you're right. You're saying if Daniels plays. I was going to say you don't need him to, and you don't. But I do agree that there's much higher likelihood that Daniels will be forced to, or that Geno would be forced to move the ball downfield a lot more. But also, you know what? Would it shock you if here's what I think is possible too. I think you could see Daniels play and just not run nearly as much.
I don't think that is going to be I don't think it's 100% that he's out. I do think he's going to end up sitting. Just here, the line opened at 7.5, and then we got the news that his status was in doubt, and the line's just kind of been 3.5 ever since then, which I kind of think is what the line would be if Mariota was the starting quarterback. Just because you consider home field to be worth 2.5 points, and then the Commanders are at home. I don't think that they're on even footing with the Raiders without it. I do think that the Commanders are a slightly better team. So it just makes sense to me that the line would be 3.5 if Jaden Daniels doesn't play. It's not to say that the end all be all is what the line is, but it does mean something to me that I think the books have set up this line as if Jaden Daniels is going to be out. And then also a little bit of bias on my end as well, because I did bet the Raiders plus 7.5 earlier in the week. So for that reason, I'm hoping that Jaden Daniels doesn't end up playing. But yeah, my best guess here is that he hasn't practiced all week. I don't think he ends up playing.
Today we'll know a lot, because these guys always don't practice Wednesday, Thursday, and then if they're going to play, they'll practice Friday. If he doesn't practice today, I wouldn't expect him to play. If you get a limited practice from Daniels today, I think you could see him play. Here's something crazy. 10 of the 13 games have a total between 41 and 44 points, right? 41 and 44. every single game in the 1 o'clock window and 1 of 4 on the 4 o'clock window. But 3 of 4 in the 4 o'clock window have the highest totals on the slate. Arizona, San Francisco, 45.5. Dallas, Chicago, 50.5. And then how about this one? Denver and the Chargers, 46.5. How about that? So Denver's defense not getting as much respect as they typically would here, with the Chargers 2.5-point favorites in a 46.5 total game. I feel like you get like nobody will want to play Justin Herbert. I don't think anybody is going to want to play Bo Nix. And this game has the second highest total on the entire slate with a 2.5-point spread. That to me is interesting. And that might be a way to get different.
Yeah, they're each showing up not as like fades in the Sims, but not in very many lineups. Somebody in chat did say Eric there, Barakian said that he finds himself landing on Herbert in single entry. So it is kind of funny that comes up right there as well. I wonder what ended up happening with Keenan Allen's ownership now.
And while you pull that up, to Eric's point or his question, should I be concerned with Denver defense or trust the Look, Denver has a good defense. They bring a lot of pressure. Vance Joseph's a talented DC. He took a ragtag group of guys that they said was going to be in rebuild mode for multiple years and turned them into a top 5 defense in literally one season. Do I think that it's possible they are not quite as good as we saw last year defensively? Probably. Yeah, that tends to happen. But at the same time, it's still a good defense. However, Justin Herbert's also very good. He's been more than willing to use his legs lately, which I mentioned that literally before week 1. It was my favorite bet on the week, was just simply, hey, this guy said, he said, I want to run more like Josh Allen. Let's take the fucking guy at his word. Okay. Take him at his word. And he started the run, and he can run. He's not cheap, but he's not expensive. You've now seen 2 games with 30 plus rushing yards. The only issue here, I'm going to tell you the problem I don't like in this game. And then, Greg, we can talk about Keenan Allen. This offensive line for the Chargers could be a problem. And not in like this team's a problem, but like an actual problem in the literal sense. And if that, I know right now, like the Chargers on PFF, their pass blocking looks good. It did not look great against the Raiders, and Max Crosby seemed to have his way with them getting through the line of scrimmage before the ball was even snapped.
Yeah, so the way that I'm looking at the Chargers is Keenan Allen, who our Sims actually don't really love relative to his ownership. We've got him project for 10% ownership. He's showing up in 4% of lineups right now. It's not the most ideal matchup in the world for him individually, but I think he is so underpriced based on what his role has been so far with the Chargers. He does not look any different than the guy who was with the Chargers a couple of years ago, where he finished the season with 1,200 yards and 7 touchdowns. So far this year, he has drawn 17 targets through the first 2 games. And to some respects, Ladd McConkey has actually taken a back seat to Keenan Allen. And it's not even like a knock on Ladd McConkey at all. There's a really good rapport with Keenan Allen and Justin Herbert at quarterback. They've played together for a number of years now. I assume this is an educated guess that I'm pretty sure is true. I don't think there's been a single wide receiver over the course of his career that Justin Herbert's thrown the ball to more than Keenan Allen. And the real question coming into the year was just, Keenan Allen had a down year last year with the Bears. Was it because he's older and washed, or was it just because that team was kind of out of sorts? And it seems to be it was just because the team was out of sorts. Keenan Allen was pretty much every single year while he was with the Chargers, 1,100 plus yards, 6+ touchdowns. The only exceptions were the couple of years where he missed games because he was hurt. Like 2022, he only played in 10 games. So he has 752 yards and 4 touchdowns. To me, what he's doing right now is indistinguishable of that 2017 through 2023 run with the Chargers. He's just not priced like it.
Yeah, I know. It's very true. So with that in mind, who do you think, the question of Patrick Surtain obviously has to, come into focus here, but you have a guy like Ladd and I think this could be the Ladd McConkey game. 62%, he's running 62% of his routes out of the slot. Now, Keenan Allen's at 48%, so they clearly move things around. Could be a tougher spot for somebody like Quentin Johnston. But these guys do move around a lot, so you can't just have Surtain beating everybody up in this game. I think Ladd, and I agree with you, that Keenan Allen, no worse for wear. The rapport is still fully intact between him and Herbert. I like him. He's still underpriced. What's Ladd's ownership? That's what I want to know.
I'm going to have to pull it up because he's not showing up in the Sims here. So I'll pull it up from our ownership page. I'm sure it's fairly low for a couple of reasons. Number one, he's gotten off to a weak start to the season, but also he's still priced pretty highly. He is 5% owned at $6,800.
Yeah. So, and what's Keenan Allen's ownership?
Keenan Allen is 10% owned at $4,700.
Okay. I think Keenan Allen probably comes up a bit, but yeah, I don't know. I could see this game just overall being a spot that we want to look at this week for sure. Denver and the Chargers. And there are some spots that I may just be willing to boost, Greg, because if this really has the second highest total, maybe it does shoot out. Maybe we get a good performance here. I keep coming back to the fact that how popular is this Dallas and Bears game going to be?
Yeah, pretty popular. If you sort by our ownership, you'll see we've got a couple of really chalky players, both of them justified in my opinion. Christian McCaffrey, Jordan Mason. Nobody shows up in the Sims more than Jordan Mason. Totally makes sense when you consider no Aaron Jones this week. And then also all the coach speak we've gotten. Jordan Mason is going to be a workhorse for the next 4 weeks. Cam Akers being signed, that doesn't mean anything to me. So totally makes sense to get those two guys as chalk. Then you've got Garrett Wilson, Trey McBride, JSN, who's also going to be really popular. We've got then here's the next grouping of like the Chicago Dallas guys. Adunzi, 17% owned. You've got CeeDee Lamb, 15% owned. DJ Moore, 15% owned. Caleb Williams, 4% owned. And then you also had the 9% ownership going to Dak. Dak and Caleb Williams project to be the two most popular quarterbacks on the slate. So none of the individual guys in this game are 30% owned or anything in the same way that Jordan Mason is. But this is the game that is carrying the most ownership overall.
Right. And also, I think the ownership comes up on some of those guys, honestly. Jimmy, hopefully we like Ladd this week with Surtain likely shadowing Quentin Johnston. I just mentioned it literally 1 minute ago. I don't know if you're going to have Surtain shadowing Quentin Johnston, but he'll see a lot of him on the outside for sure, given that Johnston 82% of snaps lining up outside for sure. Let's look at our exposures here now that we've kind of broken down a few of these games.
Do you want to look at just all the exposures here? Do you want to go the individual positions?
Let's go quarterbacks first. So, yeah, like that's 45%. Yeah. Caleb and Dak.
One guy who stands out to me a lot here. The Sims are liking him a little bit too. Carson Wentz to me is the Mac Jones play from last week. 4K.
In the sense
cheap.
Of like, he's as good a play or he's the same price? Because I don't think he's nearly as good a play as Mac Jones.
Yeah, I think he's as good of a play as Mac Jones was. It's a little bit different, but it is so hard for a quarterback to just totally shit the bed at 4K. And also, there are so many weapons around Carson Wentz. He's got J.J. McCarthy to throw the ball to. He's got T.J. Hawkinson to throw the ball to. So if there is a situation where Carson Wentz has a decent game, like we know where the production is going to be coming from. It's going to come from Justin Jefferson. It's going to come from T.J. Hawkinson. It's going to come from Jordan Mason, which is also similar to that situation we had with San Francisco. And then also, it is a great matchup against the Cincinnati Bengals defense. So Carson Wentz at modest ownership. I know there was a lot of people who didn't want to play Mac Jones last week because he's Mac Jones and he's not very good. There's a lot of people who aren't going to play Carson Wentz this week because he's Carson Wentz and he's not very good. But I think the price tag the ownership and the fact that he plays decently, we know the really good weapons who are likely to produce alongside with him. I think it makes for a really strong stack.
I'm okay with it. I mean, look, I'm probably biased here because I don't think I got some of you guys killed me for this on Sunday saying that I don't think Mac Jones is that big of a downgrade from Brock Purdy. I don't think Mac Jones is that bad, as a matter of fact. And if you go back and look at his days in New England, who was he throwing to? Like he didn't have a ton of options in New England. I never thought Mac Jones got a fair shake, if we're being honest. You know, you saw him last year in Jacksonville as the backup, go out in the preseason and torch everybody he faced. This year came out, acquitted himself really well against Arizona, or not Arizona, against the Saints last week. And, you know, he was still down George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk isn't back. He had Juwan. Obviously, he had McCaffrey and Jennings and Ricky Pearsall. I'm not saying he didn't have weapons, but I just think Mac Jones is better than Carson Wentz. Like, I think Carson Wentz is pretty bad. At 4K, am I willing to play him? Sure. I have no problem getting to some Carson Wentz. But on the same hand, I don't know how much Carson Wentz plus Jordan Mason I want to get to. The argument is that they're both insanely cheap and they won't take a ton to get there. But, you know, if it's a super high-scoring slate like it was last week, that's not going to be enough because I had a ton of Mac Jones, and on any other week, that stack would have looked great, yet some of them didn't even cash.
Last week, Jordan Mason did have 3 targets in the passing game, and Aaron Jones has also been somebody who's been very involved in the passing game. So, you know, he got hurt last week, but you go and look at week 1, Aaron Jones was targeted 3 times, had 44 yards, scored a touchdown as well. I think we're getting 3 to 5 targets out of Jordan Mason. So one of it's just also kind of like the price points matter more than anything else. But I think Mac Jones is going to be throwing the ball 3 to 5 times to Aaron Jones. And to Jordan Mason in the absence of Aaron Jones. So if you were to ask me, who are the 3 guys that I think get the most targets in the Vikings passing game this week? I think Jordan Mason is still in the top 3 alongside Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson.
He might be. I don't know. I mean, with the entire backfield banged up in San Francisco last year, this guy had 1 game with more than 11 receiving yards. So color me skeptical. But we'll see. I still love Mason. I just don't know if I love him with Wentz. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, Mac Jones. I think Brock Purdy could play this week. Keep that in mind. He's back at practice, back-to-back limited practices. Today will tell us a lot. It's also possible he doesn't play. And then Marcus Mariota. I don't know, Greg. I really did like Mac Jones last week. I feel like I'm a lot lower on some of these 4K guys than the field and than you are as well.
Also, just to clear something up, because Chris in chat is saying, no way the Bengals torched that defense in Minnesota. And then he said, I don't think you realize how good Minnesota's D is. I don't really know what the relevance of that is, though, because Carson Wentz is playing against the Bengals defense. I think we're all going to agree on is
he was responding to a guy who in the chat who said that that the Bengals were going to mop them up.
Got it. Missed that part of it. My bad, Chris.
Alex, if Mason is the Kevin O'Connell workhorse, we have to project him for some of the Jones pass plays. Agree with Greg. Maybe 1 small dollar single entry, but I'm not saying he won't be involved in the passing game. What I'm saying is that a running back like Mason, who has never been super efficient in the passing game, that helps him a lot more than it helps Wentz. Like every completion from Wentz to Mason for 3 yards is, you know, almost a full fantasy point for Mason. Whereas for Wentz, it's a drop in the bucket. That's all I'm saying. Like there is still something to be said about a running back that'll get some targets and also a running back that makes sense as a stack attachment because he can rip off a 50-yard reception. Maybe Mason can, but, you know, I don't see him doing what Jaylen Warren did against Seattle or what Devon Achane can do on any given week, or even Jonathan Taylor in the passing game or Christian McCaffrey. That's kind of where I draw the difference. But, hey, if you do it, that is now 9,400 between your running back and your quarterback. It's dirt cheap, and maybe you don't need much at all. That may be my blind spot, Greg, that, like, I'm hoping for a big passing game. You don't need it.
Yeah, he's very cheap. The other thing too, just about the Vikings in general, I don't think as bad as Carson Wentz has been the last handful of times we've seen him play, could it really be worse than what JJ McCarthy's been so far this year? Because he's also looked pretty terrible.
I want to say no, but I've seen a lot of Carson Wentz. But no, I think probably not. No, you're right. I would rather play Carson Wentz here at that price point than JJ McCarthy probably at any price point. I just can't help but look at this slate and think that there may be some options that we're not getting to. And then once we update the Sims, we're going to be getting a lot more of. Like, I feel that that's going to happen. Right. And if it doesn't, I think I'll make it like a little bit of Jalen Hurts, some Bo Nix, Justin Herbert, in case that game gets wild. That could be a 13-10 game or a 30-27 game in a divisional spot in LA.
Yeah, that would not surprise me at all. Based on the ownership, I mean, I agree with you. I'm going to be playing a little bit of a Jalen Hurts to AJ Brown.
Mr. Gold Magnet, if you believe in Wentz, just say that. If you're referring to me, then I don't know what you've been listening to, because I don't believe in Wentz. But price point, no, it's a disingenuous statement. Because you don't have to believe in a guy to think that at $4,000 they're viable. You know what I mean? You don't have to be like, this guy's good and I think he's going to have a great game to want to play him or at least have exposure at $4,000. He's minimum salary. And as you pointed out, you still have Justin Jefferson. Hawkinson might be in trouble. I don't know if he's just dust at this point coming off that injury. Got you, Gold Magnet. Yeah, Greg does like him. Greg's a big fan of Carson.
Yeah. Matt, Matt, I think Carson Wentz is the best. You know, it's funny. If we wanted to, I'm sure we could take, because Loughy's been doing this for a minute. I'm sure we could find old content Loughy's done about the Eagles and Carson Wentz, take it out of context and make it seem like he thinks Wentz is one of the better quarterbacks in the league.
You absolutely could, because there was a time when he was.
Yeah, he was.
Before his ACL, right? Before his ACL, in the year they won the Super Bowl in 2017, Wentz was very good. He's never been the same after that, ever. So you could find me saying something for sure. Yeah, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the look at some of the numbers for Wentz his first handful of years in the league. It's a different player, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, he was legitimately very, very good at one point. He had back-to-back years with a passer rating over 100 in 2017 and 2018.
Yeah, if you look at his 2017, he missed like the final 3 games, and he was the MVP that year, for what it's worth. Mm-hmm. He was going to be the MVP that year. He didn't win it because he got hurt. I'm almost certain he would have won the MVP.
3,300 yards, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, had a 102 passer rating, and yeah, it was just in the 13 games played. So if you gave him the then 16-game season, if you would have given him a few extra games there, yeah, he was going to have some pretty robust numbers. And he was still solid for a couple of years after that, and then he totally fell off in 2020.
Yep. Yeah, you would have been looking at close to 4,000 passing yards and 40 passing touchdowns that year.
I forgot he was kind of decent with the Colts in 2021 also.
Yeah, but the Eagles robbed the Colts on that. If you go look at that trade, the Eagles absolutely fleeced the Colts on that trade. Crazy.
Yeah, for sure. But I just kind of remembered him as being terrible after that. But he had 3,500 yards, 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions in that year in 2021 with the Colts.
That's not terrible.
Yeah, no, not at all. Then he went to Washington in 2022 and really sucked that season and basically never played again.
Yeah, he was terrible in Washington. Shani Boys, DFS. These are the types of plays that take down a GPP. Can we do that for a second? Let's talk about, and I don't know who he's referring to. Oh, what an abhorrent gesture that is in your avatar.
Well, he looks handsome in the picture, at least.
Let me see. Oh, yeah. That'll make it better.
Carson Wentz.
These are the types of plays that take down a tournament. I assume he's talking about Wentz and some of these, but do you think there's any others that you look at that could take down a tournament? I have a couple if you want to talk about them, but if you have some off the top of your head, doesn't have to be quarterback. It can be anybody.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, we could actually go through our top contrarian plays at each position. This is a crazy week for cheap QBs. There are so many starting
Yep.
quarterbacks who are out that are just like, we got Tyrod Taylor, who's got rushing upside, is $4,800. Marcus Mariota, he's got some rushing upside. We still don't know exactly what's going to happen with Jaden Daniels, but he's only 4K. We just talked about Carson Wentz at 4K. So if you aren't going to be playing one of the chalk quarterbacks in Caleb Williams or Dak Prescott, go punt. Go punt. And I think it's a really good way to go about the quarterback position. But moving on to some of the other positions, if we went ahead and looked at running back, for instance, here's somebody whose salary, or sorry, his ownership hasn't really gone up that we talked about on Wednesday, Loughy. It's the same spot that you were just talking about, but with the run game. Saquon Barkley is still only 12% owned at $7,800 against the Rams. We've got a lot of pay-up running backs on this slate who are going to be popular. We got Christian McCaffrey is nearly 40% owned right now. Bijan Robinson is 20% owned. It's funny. Earlier on Wednesday, you ran that poll and you asked people who are their favorite pay-up running backs, and Bijan Robinson ended up getting the most votes in the poll. It was like, 100, 150 votes. It wasn't a massive sample size or anything like that. But we thought that, all right, based on that, Bijan Robinson's ownership is going to come up. It did, but Christian McCaffrey's ownership has also gone up. The reason for that is because more cheap quarterbacks came into play. It just became easier to spend up at running back. Saquon Barkley's ownership has not changed. It was just extra ownership went to Bijan Robinson and Christian McCaffrey. I don't think Christian McCaffrey, you play this slate out 10 times, I don't think he outscores Barkley at a 4x rate or anything like that. So I think that Barkley is somebody who is not all that hard to get to because of all the value at quarterback and makes for a really good pivot off of chalky options in Bijan Robinson and Christian McCaffrey.
I agree with you for sure. But I think we're just saying the same thing as earlier, right? Like this Eagles team in some form or fashion could be a good leverage spot on a week like this because we both agree we don't think they're going to be very popular. I'm going to post a poll for you guys in a second, but the one situation I want to talk about, and I want your guys' thoughts on this as well, chat. Let me know. So Zach Charbonnet has not practiced this week. He has not stepped on the practice field. I don't know if you guys follow along with like specific news and why coaches are doing things. The only reason Kenneth Walker is not getting more of a workload right now is because his foot injury that he dealt with throughout the summer and training camp up through the preseason, they say it's still not 100%. Clearly, they have playoff aspirations. They're trying to keep this guy fresh. I don't know if you saw the breakdown in not only opportunities, but effectiveness and production last week. Kenneth Walker goes out and has, this is against what should be a stout front four for the Pittsburgh Steelers, goes out 13 for 105 and a touchdown, okay? And his long run was only 20 yards, which is actually more impressive when you consider all things considered. Zach Charbonnet, Greg, had 15 carries for 10 yards. Now, Charbonnet now also dealing with a foot injury. Mm-hmm. So if Charbonnet isn't active, there's no doubt in my mind that Walker will be chalk. I do not know how much more work he will get. I'd be lying to you if I told you he would just come and get 20 touches because it doesn't seem like Mike McDonald wants to do that. But I do think if this is where I'm about to get weird on you. I think if Charbonnet doesn't play, Kenneth Walker becomes, in a sense, a worse play. But if Charbonnet plays and he's not 100%, and now it's like we got to get Walker a little bit more work here, I could see Kenneth Walker actually becoming a better play at 5,800 because still nobody will want to play him.
Yeah, he has been really at the top of the leaderboards for a lot of the advanced metrics for running backs coming off what should be a difficult matchup against the Steelers. Maybe the Steelers defense is going to be total trash this year because they've gotten destroyed now the first couple of games of the year. But coming into the year, we assume the Steelers were going to have a pretty good defense. And then to open up the season, they gave up 32 points to the Jets, then 31 points to the Seahawks. That aside, though, Kenneth Walker played a really good game last week and the kind of game that I would think earns him more of a workload. He has so far outperformed Zach Charbonnet. You would have to be just a total goofball of a coach if you're not looking at the results to start the year and continuing to say, we're going to give more touches to Charbonnet.
But
and Kenneth
that's what I'm
Walker.
saying. That's what I'm saying, though. He's doing it from a calculated perspective because Walker's not fully healthy yet. Like, they're intentionally limiting him. Not because they don't think he's better than Charbonnet, because he clearly is.
That could definitely be the case. But if this is if a limited Kenneth Walker is rushing 13 times for 105 yards and a touchdown against Steelers defense, and also he didn't have any runs longer than 20 yards. It's not like he had one 80-yard run and then the rest of his runs were like a bunch of 2-yard runs. He said that he averaged 8.1 yards per carry last week on 13 rushes with none of them for more than 20 yards. It was just consistent gains. If he's going to play that well, and if he's not, like, what does it look like if he is healthy?
I think he probably is pretty close to healthy. I don't know what they're going to do with him. Either way, I've got my eyes on Kenneth Walker in a spot like this. I'm more than willing to play him. Well, actually, let's take a look at all of our running back exposure. Before we do, gotta hit on our sponsor, Epic. Where else are you going to find a site like this, an app like this, I should say, that is peer-to-peer, where you cannot get limited, where you can come in and fade other people's plays? Can you imagine you're now giving an opportunity to match other people's plays and fade them? We all talk about, like, man, there's a lot of square bettors out there, right? If you consider yourself sharp, what an opportunity to come in and just start fading other people's plays, right? Where the payouts are better because it's matched peer-to-peer. You're not doing this against the house, right? So there's no, it's not like you're paying into the VIG every single time you want to take an under when this guy, no, you're matching this up against someone else, a real human, right? And people are going to make some bad bets. They're going to put some bad parlays together. That's a huge asset for us. If you use the code ODDS1, ODDS1, by the way, get a 100% deposit bonus up to $50. The link is in the description. If you haven't checked it out yet, head over and download the Epic app. Use ODDS1. Get that $50 matched 100%. No doubt that is a great offer. You put 50 in, now you have 100. Beautiful. They also have the tournament and 50-50 modes, where just as you'd play DFS, you're in here doing the same with Epic. With the pick'em style. Also, the pick'em and fade'em is available in Pennsylvania. None of these other pick'em apps are. But yeah, you can talk about how you don't get limited, but I know some of you guys would be on other books and you're not limited. You do it for fun. That's not the only thing. What should incentivize anybody is the fact that the payouts and the payout structure is markedly better than any of these other pick'em sites. Because whereas you're going against the house there with these fixed odds props on something like pick'em, or a prize pick, say, you know exactly what the payout is and whether it is a payout in your favor or not in your favor. And they get even worse depending on how many plays you put into a lineup. Not the same over at Epic. I could go on about this for a while, but I think you guys get the point. If you're going to do this and you're going to play pick'em style contests and tournaments, why not do it somewhere where you don't have to worry about the house and you can just play straight against somebody else and match up with them? So yeah, I think that's nice.
Don't even have to be sharp. If you just think that you are smarter or better at this than half of the people in YouTube chat, you can go take them on over here.
Way too legit. It's like shorting the stock market, right? No, because shorting the stock market, almost any amateur is likely going to get ruined, right? Just get destroyed. You hear about all these these people going and trading options because they hear it works out well, and they get their asses kicked. And something like this, you're fading the people. How about this? You're essentially you're going up against the amateur options traders. You're going up against the people when you're fading these plays that think they're sharp shorting the market, right? Oftentimes, those are the people that are going to be posting the plays. So, yeah, definitely different there. Definitely different. All right, running back exposure, Greg. Mason, McCaffrey, Bijan. Can I say this to you, and then I want your analysis on these running backs? Here's what I'll say. I find there to be a lot of spots where I'm going to fade the chalk this week, or at the very least, not fade it, but come in heavier on guys that are getting little ownership. Jordan Mason to me right now feels like the one guy that I really just want to play him at 5,400.
Yeah, he's so difficult to get away from just because of the fact that Aaron Jones is out. He's on the injured list. He's going to miss the next 4 games. We've heard from Kevin O'Connell over the course of the week is that Jordan Mason is going to be his guy going forward. He really strongly believes in Jordan Mason. Even with Aaron Jones there, Jordan Mason had 24 rushing attempts in the first 2 games of the season. Jordan Mason's been a split role with him and Aaron Jones, but Aaron Jones has still been the starter. So you got a scenario here where a guy is already getting 2 targets per game in the passing game. He's already getting 12 carries. Now he's going to be taking all of Aaron Jones's work as well, and he's not priced for it. And he has a good matchup against the Bengals on top of it. He's going to be very popular, but he's actually not even projected to be the most popular running back on the slate at the moment. That's Christian McCaffrey. I think Jordan Mason's the best play on the slate at the moment.
Keep going down the running backs here for a second so I can get a poll going in chat.
Sure. Yeah, so there's 2 real chalk running backs. We just touched on one in Jordan Mason. The other one is Christian McCaffrey as a spend-up option. So here's what the Sims are doing with Christian McCaffrey. He projects really well for us. He projects better than any other running back on the slate. But we actually are coming in a little bit underweight to the field to him right now. Nothing crazy, but as far as Christian McCaffrey goes, nearly 40% owned. This is a mark where the Sims are saying a little bit too much, and it's getting us to 36% of McCaffrey. If things aren't to change with his ownership, definitely somebody you'd want to be playing in cash games and for tournaments. Sure, you'd play him, but I don't know that he'd be in a single entry lineup for me. I might look to go elsewhere. A good pivot point as of right now does look like Bijan Robinson, because we do have Bijan Robinson and Christian McCaffrey getting comparable exposures to us in the Sims. But the difference is Christian McCaffrey is showing up in 39% of lineups of the field, whereas Bijan Robinson just under 20%. So when you've got our data here saying that, like, yeah, Christian McCaffrey projects a little bit better, and he's also a lot more popular, we end up being pretty well overweight to the field on Bijan Robinson and a little bit underweight to the field to Christian McCaffrey. So I do think there are pivots off of McCaffrey at this kind of ownership. And then also somebody who's showing up as a contrarian option for us. And I actually really like this, not like super crazy contrarian, but I think this is one of the more interesting ways to get leverage on this slate. Instead of playing the Cowboys passing game, instead of playing the Bears passing game, Javonte Williams, who's looked pretty solid opening of the year at $6,100, project for 10% ownership. He is the running back right now that we get the most overweight to the field to outside of Jordan Mason. So if you do want a creative way to get leverage off of the super chalky Bears-Cowboys passing games, I think Javonte Williams is an interesting way to go.
What about DeAndre Swift on the other side?
Yeah, so DeAndre Swift, you could also make a case for. Our data doesn't like Swift quite as much, but there's still a similar case to be made. Swift at $5,600 is only showing up in a 6% of top lineup. So he's in some of them. Just our data prefers Javonte Williams a little bit more, where Williams is showing up in 24% of lineups compared to 6% for Swift. So both viable. Our data just prefers Javonte Williams a little bit. Clayton is asking about Jonathan Taylor. Yeah, Jonathan Taylor's right here on screen. We've also got Jonathan Taylor at $7,200 showing up in 19% of lineups. So he's not quite as popular as McCaffrey and Bijan Robinson, but our Sims are getting overweight to the field to Jonathan Taylor, who I do think is a little bit underpriced at $7,200.
He is, and he's just phenomenal. I mean, he's the best. I said this before we went into week 1, that at the end of the season, if he's healthy, Jonathan Taylor will probably lead the league in carries. And if that game...
Your mic just turned off. All right. Well, while Loughy figures that out there. Yeah, Jonathan Taylor's had an insane workload to open up the season. And don't forget, we're only 2 years removed from this guy being the consensus #1 overall pick in fantasy leagues, the consensus #1 overall pick in best ball leagues. And then he just got banged up a little bit. 2022, 2023, we saw Jonathan Taylor get hurt in those years. He only played about half the games. He was healthy last year. Well, relatively healthy. Still missed a few games. But despite that, 14 games played, 1,400 rushing yards. He ended up having 11 rushing touchdowns. Also had involvement in the passing game. Not a massive amount, but he does add a little bit of pass game work. And it does seem like that's something that's picked up a little bit more this year with Daniel Jones at running back. Through the first 2 games of the year, we've seen 5 targets so far out of Jonathan Taylor. So he is on pace to easily have the most targets he would ever have in the passing game over the course of his career. So that is also something that's been a little bit of an interesting wrinkle to Jonathan Taylor here, is that he's getting these, like 3 or so targets per game. So Jonathan Taylor, I do like Saquon Barkley a little bit more as a pivot as opposed to Jonathan Taylor getting off of Christian McCaffrey and Bijan Robinson. But Jonathan Taylor is also a pretty good low-owned pivot. If you have an otherwise popular lineup and you just have the salary to play McCaffrey or Bijan Robinson, you could also look at Jonathan Taylor and save yourself some ownership and salary.
Yeah, for sure. And I have respect for can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I have respect for this Titans defense, but I have more respect for the Colts offensive line and Jonathan Taylor. I also expect this game to be competitive, which makes me like Taylor more. It is the fishiest line out there. The fact that the Titans for so long were plus 3.5. That is the fishiest line I've seen all season long. By the way, I set a poll up. You have to fade one chalk player in week 3. Who is it? Christian McCaffrey, Jordan Mason, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Trey McBride. McBride at 41% right now, Mason at 27%, McCaffrey at 24%, only 8% to Smith and Jigba. My answer probably would be McBride as well. I was actually listening to Levitan and Silva as I got a late night exercise in on Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, can't remember. And they were talking about how McBride goes back. This was like their fantasy football, not a DFS, but like a fantasy football podcast. How McBride, all the way going back to high school, didn't score touchdowns. So when you talk about like, what's the likelihood that you'll just see that positive regression? And we all know how volatile touchdowns are. What if McBride just doesn't score touchdowns?
It's very possible. I mean, the other thing too is this is his 4th year in the NFL. His career high for touchdowns is 3. So it's not like he had a down year last year and he caught a bunch of touchdowns in 2023. We've never seen him catch touchdowns regularly in the NFL.
2023, he didn't come onto the scene until like midway through the year. But your point remains, like he's just not a guy that they can get the ball to. And I don't know, it's weird, man. If he ends up being chalky, I would just be okay getting away from some of the expensive tight ends this week.
Yeah.
Ron, it's not his quarterback. That's what I'm telling you. He has never scored touchdowns. He's never, at any level, he's never been a touchdown scorer. It's weird.
What are his college stats?
Tim, that's the other thing. Like, on one hand, you could make an argument that it's going to get better when you say he had 16 end zone targets last year. But then on the other hand, what did he have? 2 receiving touchdowns? I know he had 1 fumble recovery in the end zone. That doesn't count. It's crazy.
Listen to this. He was one of there's a reason. He was very well regarded coming out of college. He was a top draft pick relative to other tight ends. His senior year at Colorado State, 90 receptions, 1,121 yards. How many touchdowns do you think he had that season?
Probably like 2 or 3.
1.
See, like, how is that possible?
Yeah, he had here are his receiving touchdowns by year in college. 1 touchdown his senior year, 4 his junior year, 4 his sophomore year, and 1 his freshman year.
Amazing. How is that possible?
You could say it's the quarterback. You could say you don't like Kyler Murray, but every quarterback he's ever played with at different levels, to Loughy's point, he hasn't scored touchdowns.
This is unequivocally going to be the game where he has 3 touchdowns, Greg. There is no doubt remaining in my mind. This will be the game where he scores 3 touchdowns. Unreal. Any other exposures you want to look at before we get out of here? And I should point out that our tools, guys, if you haven't used them, I mean, look at all those $1 million wins. Is that silly or what? Using these tools, using the Sims, rocking the avatar, stokastic.com/HOF, by the way. Look at this. This is just from the other week. Man, look at that. And Greg and I ran this on the show the other day, but if you still haven't taken advantage of it, this is going away. 25% off any monthly or weekly NFL package. That's a big discount, man. Strategy 25 is the promo code. Just go to stokastic.com. Use strategy 25 when you check out on any of those. Yeah, I mean, Greg, the way I see it is, if you plan on using tools and you plan on playing DFS, why not use good tools? Why not take a discount off the sims, off the single lineup sims, the top stacks, ownership, all those tools while you have the opportunity to?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And also, good question about the tools here as well. This is something we see a decent amount. This is from Andrew's Jars. He wants to know, he sees in the post-contest sims that a lot of winning lineups have negative sim ROI. How many negative graded lineups should he have in your pool? 0. So just because what's expected to happen isn't always what actually happens. So think of it this way. Let's say that last night on the Thursday Night Football slate, Josh Allen gets hurt. Mitch Trubisky comes into the game and plays well. There's always some people that play the backup quarterbacks in Showdown. It doesn't mean that because those lineups did well from a results standpoint, that you should have been like, oh, it was the smart move to play Mitch Trubisky before the slate. Those lineups are still going to end up performing better than lineups with Josh Allen, just because that's what the results are. But what the actual simulations are doing is we're simulating, I think what we use is we do 50,000 simulations. We run out the slate. So this is the average of those lineups over 50,000 simulations, whereas the post-contest sims doing 50,000. The actual results is just what happened in one instance. So you still want to be playing the lineups that are expected to do the most damage in terms of like good results for you over many, many simulations versus picking like one lineup that ends up doing well. So you want to play the lineups that are expected to do well. You don't want to look at, oh, this lineup was bad, therefore, and it did well, therefore I should play more bad lineups.
Exactly. Yep. So if you're looking for it, so we had a question from Matthew. We have the tutorials. Just type in Stokastic NFL Sims in the search, or just go to our playlist and you'll see them all right there. We have them for the single lineup sims, for the regular sims. We have them for the entry manager, which is a massive feature that makes it seamless to put your lineups in. It's going to be huge for NBA. It is huge for NBA. But also the entry manager now for single lineup sims, so you can cross-manage it across both of those. But anyway, I wanted to look at one more thing, and then we'll get out of here for the morning. Appreciate you guys hanging with us as always. Who are our highest leveraged plays? Just go quickly across. We can go to all, actually, and just see who our highest leverage plays are. The ones where we are well over the field as far as our exposure goes.
Yeah, so...
That, by the way, that Garrett Wilson ownership is not going to hold.
Yeah, it'll come down. But these are the players who, and our data likes not all of the chalk, like we're underweights the field to McCaffrey, but our data does like Jordan Mason. I agree, he's my favorite chalk play on the entire slate. We get overweights the field to Garrett Wilson, JSN, Trey McBride, DJ Moore. We're getting to more of him than Rome Odunze. Yeah, we've got 35% or more compared to 28% of Odunze. As far as contrarian guys go, let's see, because I think this is more in the realm of what it is we're actually looking for. So yeah, these are the lower owned players that we're getting overweights to the field to. Juwan Johnson, 6% owned at tight end. He's showing up in 15% of lineups. Jonathan Taylor as a pivot off of Bijan Robinson or Christian McCaffrey. We're getting to him in nearly 20% of lineups with 12% projected ownership. Ricky Pearsall. I tend to think Juwan Jennings will play and be fine. It seems to me like Juwan Jennings, the guy's just never going to practice ever in his entire life.
Him. He's going to be like Mike Evans. Yeah.
So Ricky Pearsall, even though I think Jennings will be fine and good to go, he's a contrarian option, just 5% ownership showing up in 10% of lineups. Mac Jones, Sims getting back to Mac Jones. The Sims loved Mac Jones last week, and he wasn't all that popular. This week at just 2% projected ownership, we're getting to him in 7% of lineups. Brock Bowers as somebody who we're getting a little bit overweight to, showing up in 15% of lineups with 10% ownership. Definitely somebody who want a little bit more information on the health of his knee, but he looked pretty limited last week. I tend to think he'll look a little bit healthier this week.
Yeah, me too. Some of those contrarian spots I like. I also expect our next ownership run, I assume we're going to see some of this change. So guys, make sure, when you're building these lineups out, you can, what I like to do is throughout the weeks, get an idea, a lay of the land, right? Where I'm looking to go, where I think I'm going to be in line, but then also some spots where I may want to make some adjustments, some certain builds that I'm looking for. So I know when Sunday comes and we get that final update, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go with the single lineup sims. I'm ready to go here. That's what I want to do, right? I don't want to be starting off from scratch. Even Saturday, and today, I think when we get another update, we'll have a lot more insight. And then after today, once we have all of the practice reports, we'll have a lot more. So even Saturday night, you take some time with the tools to really just familiarize yourself with the slate itself, and then give yourself some options there where you think you may want to make some changes. And like I said, 25% off any monthly or weekly package, any monthly or weekly NFL package. That means weekly core, weekly max NFL, core monthly, max monthly, 25% off, strategy 25. When you check out, just use the code strategy 25 after you decide which one you want, and that'll knock 25% straight off your first payment. Anything else before we get out of here, Greg?
A little bit of breaking news here. Jaden Daniels not only not practicing, not even spotted at practice today. So,
all right, so he's out. He's out.
Yeah, it appears Marcus Mariota is going to be playing. By the way, this had zero impact on the spread. The line has not moved at all. So, I think, like I was saying, it's not the end all be all, but this game was priced as if he wasn't going to play.
You got Raiders +7 or 7.5. That's a great
7.5. Number. Yeah. While Ben Raza and I were on a call earlier in the week, we were talking about it, and we were betting Raiders lines. So
yeah, that's a good number. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Bit of a longer show today, but try and get everything in as we can, and take you into the weekend with hopefully some decent insight that we can carry into Sunday and win some money. That's what I'd like to do. Don't forget, be smart. Stokastic.com/HOF. You want to get that beautiful ring in the custom display case. See, it's right there, engraved with your name on there. See that? With the win and all of that good stuff. It even spins when you hit that button. Very cool stuff. Or you just want to get 3 months of free sims. If you just rock that, if you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, and then just tweet your wins to us, it's Stokastic HOF, maybe a nice message included as well. You can win up to 4 times in a calendar year. And every time you win, it just gets better to the point where you could be looking at a Sims all access monthly $550 value simply for playing DFS and rocking the avatar. You know how simple that is? Stokastic.com/HOF, or use the link down below. Anyway, thanks guys. We'll see you back here for the next one. We'll see you over there on Tails. See you on Twitter. Until then, we'll see you on Sunday. Bye-bye.